I audible?
Yes.
All right, great. Okay, so moving on to my session. So can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to talk about quite a bit of. Oh, so first about myself. So I'm Darshana. I work as business analyst and somewhere into data scientist role as well, transitioning slowly here at Dogma. And what I've been doing is I gather requirements, user stories, and everything. And anywhere I see the potential to identify data science product, I gently suggest those, make the proper recommendations around it. And then on my personal free time, I utilize it to do quite a lot of personal research around building data science models. So that's pretty much about me. Right, so today's sessions agenda that I have up is I wanted to talk just a bit about what is AI and how is the data model built and how our AI use cases met and how AI Builder has made it so easy for us to be able to get those models off the shelf and use it on a real business case application. Mm, so yeah. All right, so the basic of what is AI is, so there are three components. So oftentimes we hear these buzzwords: machine learning, computer vision, natural language processing, right? So what these mean is that AI is a holistic a higher domain of these subsets. So machine learning mostly is about having raw data as data columns and processing it. Computer vision is about converting images into data, into numbers, and then processing it. And then natural language processing is converting sentences, voice, speech, things like that into data and then processing it. So yeah, that's pretty much around what is AI. So how is a data-driven model built? And I'm going to open up this whole realm of what it takes to build a proper data model. So there are so many steps, so many stages that building a data model consists of. So at first is gathering data from different sources. So Subra touch based around the dataverse and how it can be leveraged, right? So having a data source and being able to bring it into model production, so data gathering, and then there's data evaluation, which is around seeing whether we have faulty data or not. So let's say that one of the data column is age of a person, and then you look onto the data. You want to evaluate the data to see if someone has entered their age to be 1,000 or not, right? So oftentimes you find things like that. So those are called outliers. So you've got to find a way to clean them, remove them, and then there's the feature analysis part. So you look at what you want to predict, and then you look at what could be some of those factors which might influence, what could be some of those data points which might influence your prediction. So let's say weather of a place, right? So if you want to predict the weather of the place, then what might be your features? It could be the altitude of the place. It could be the pollution level of the place, and so on, right? So that is your feature analysis part. And your feature extraction is so being able to look at. So let's say if you have two data columns, right? So place one and place two. So let's say place one is Budhanilkantha and place two is Bhaktapur, and you want to be able to have a new column called distance. So so extracting features from the present set of, extracting some more additional data points from the data point that you have, right? And then you go on and do some feature engineering, which is transforming the data so that the model can understand it. And then there are so many ways to decide whether you adding the additional data, you are saying that for me, I think that distance works, as distance could play an influential factor in my prediction engine. So there are models which called PCA and SPD and things like that, which validate whether your hunch is right or not. And then there's the splitting of data sets. So what you do is you have, let's say, 10,000 rows of data. Now, you want your model to learn from 5,000 rows of data, or rule of thumb is 80-20. So you want, let's say you want your model to learn from 8,000 rows of data. And then you also want to have some spare data so that you want to see whether your model works as you've trained or not. So on the next 2,000 rows of data, you want to see whether it works or not. So that is splitting of data set. And then you go on to model selection. So based on your business problem, you have quite a lot of machine learning models. You have quite a lot of algorithms that you want to select for your problem. And then there are some ways to evaluate your model, and ways to see the results and determine that this is the best model that I want to choose. Trade-offs. I'm sorry if these are big jargons, but I will cover it yet again, right? And then there are some of the trade-offs. So once, let's say you have a model, but it has million of data points to it, which means that your speed is going to be very slow unless you have like really high functioning compute space. But then you realize, looking back, that if you had out of million, if you had thousands of data points, right? Even if you connected with just the thousands, you will have so much of surge in speed. But in terms of looking back at the accuracy, there's only 5% of difference, so that is negligible. So those are some sort of trade-offs that you'll also have to consider. So this is the whole range of things that goes into building a data model, and it's quite an iterative process. So you do this, and then you see the matrix, you see the accuracy, and then you go back and do some more data cleaning. You do some more of things where you think that this might have been better and stuff. And that's how this works. And finally, you deploy a model. I do particularly want to give a very general touch base on best model selection part as well. The model selections part as well. So yeah, so this is the earlier thing that I was talking about. So let's say this is a data of a very simple real estate price prediction. So you have two columns which you think will influence the price factor. So you have lot size, and then you have number of bedrooms for each different houses, right? So this is the column that you want to predict, and these are some of the independent variables. So these are some of the features that you have, right? So this independent variable, the variable that you want to predict, plays an influential role in what sort of models should you be trying, right? And the reason that I'm saying all this is I want to build a gist on what sort of process, what sort of exploration takes place, and the effort it takes place around building a data model and building an AI model, and how AI Builder has quite made it seem so easy. So my focus on this one is a bit more on the theory side of things, right? So, all right, so this is your target variable, right? So as we can see that in this case, this is a number, right? So target variables can be of three types. So continuous variables, or the number ones, for example, the one you saw previously. Another one could also be binary variables. So if you want to predict whether the house is safe or not, right? And if that were your business use case, then you would have value 0 or 1. Or if you wanted to predict if the house was, large, medium, or small, then you have qualitative target variables. So these are some of the data types, value types, I'd say, that the target variable can be. And based on these value types, so you have already in the market, so a lot of researchers have put research into place and built models which works for the types of these data. So if your data set is a continuous one, so if your target variable is a continuous one, for example, for these things that we for the data column that we had, which was the price of the house, so there are models called linear regression, time series, cart, neural network. So neural network is more a whole lot of another thing on itself. But well, these are some sort of algorithms that you should have at the back of your approach. That this is the things that these are the models that I want to try, and then I want to see which model gives the best accuracy metric. So if your target variable was binary, so if your business use case was whether the house is safe enough or not, so you'd have yes or no answer. And in that case, these are some of the algorithms that you should be trying, right? And so another one is if your target variable, if the thing that you want to predict was qualitative, so if they were categories, so you have, based on the data that you have, you will be segmenting the house into whether it is small, medium, or large. If that was your business use case, then your models that you would have to try would be this, right? So these are some of the rule of thumbs that works. And these are some more of the qualitative classification models. So yeah, that's pretty much on this. So this I share as a this has been one of my research projects. So I'm just looking at a job to job. I'm trying to build a model which takes in data points like title, description, requirements, city, state of about a job, and then find similar things, find other similar jobs as my input job. So, and these are some of the other processes, the stages that the project goes through. So I'll have to normalize. Normalizing is being able to say normalization is having all the standard words in normalizing it, in the sense that when I say product management and product manager or manage product, they mean pretty much the same thing, but I want the model to understand that they mean the same thing, which is why I have to reflect it in the data, and quite a lot of things like that. So some of the distance measures that I want to use, some of the models that I want to use, and so on, right? So this is just to give a gist that on each stages that I talked about, so the cleaning part and this part and that part, there are quite a lot of things that goes in, right? So those are everything that you need to be able to try and stuff. Right, so enough of the jargon. So how are AI use cases met, right? So what happens is often more times than not, you have an AI use case where you have multiple models, so working together. So you have model 1 giving a certain output, and then model 2 takes the input of model 1 and then again processes it and then gives you model 3, and then finally only then it gives the desired outcome. So one example is voice sentiment analysis. So if you want to analyze the sentiment of a voice recording, one approach is that first you have to have a model which takes files, whichever format of files, and converts it into a WAV file. So this is pretty simple one. This is not exactly a model, but more of a process sort of thing. But then this voice file, this WAV file, needs to be converted into text. And then this is an AI model on itself. So this is a data model, and this is the part where all the effort of the things that I talked about earlier goes in, right? And then the other thing, the output of this model is going to be the input for analyzing sentiment analysis model. So this sentiment analysis model is going to take text from this this model's output and then be able to finally give you the desired outcome, right? So this all in all is more of an AI model, because AI model is a bit higher, bit holistic in nature. So it tries to cover a lot more than just a data model. Data model would have like a simple use case, so on. All right. So another example is a digit recognizer. So let's say you have a handwritten digit, right? And your business use case scenario is that you need to be able to convert it. The machine needs to be able to read it as an actual mathematical formula, right? So, and there's quite a lot of similar subset model that goes into it as well. So first you need to have a model which recognizes just the stroke. So by stroke, I mean when you write 3, right? So this needs to be recognized as an individual stroke, right? So, and then the next thing that needs to go in, the other model that you have to, does anyone have any question? I hear a lot of background noise. All right. So the other use case is that, so the other model that goes into this process is that now you have this as a number. You have a model which recognizes just 3 as a number. Now it is close to this alphabet. It is close to this alphabet. How does 3? What model should you use for 3 to recognize that the next number is X? Right. So you need to be. So that's another model, and that's how pipeline building works. Right, so pretty much, so that's something that I wanted to cover up on, right? So you have data models, and on top of it, you have these data models combining together to form a pipeline. And there's quite a lot of, there's so much of uh, approaches, rule of thumbs in each of these stages, and that's pretty much how things are with the data science domain. And once people try and explore and something really works for them, that's how those things get published as research papers which worked, so that the other person who comes, who tries to do the same business use case, they look at what has worked in the past and then they do it, replicate it for their use case, and yeah, that's the pretty much scenario. All right, so now I want to move on to the star of the show, Microsoft AI Builder. Something that I really liked about, so Microsoft AI Builder is, like I said, so like I gave quite a lot of use cases. So Microsoft AI Builder is a very simple, intuitive interface which has these models right then and there, and all we have to do is feed it data and then tell it and then say that this is the case that we want to do, and then we can have this intuitive model automating this data for us. So it recognizes the data, and then we have this model really simplifying all the processes that I talked about. You do not have to go through the hassle of all that. If the use case that you have in mind is there, readily available in the business in the AI Builder, and it is a game changer in the domain, especially given that it elevates quite a lot of your it helps you skip the processes, and you do not have to look at any of the stuff. Simply go into it, know your use case in mind, and then be able to do quite a lot of drag and drop configuration, and then simply get straight to productivity, as it already says, right? So quite a lot of things that you can do using AI Builder is prediction. So all you do is give it data, and then it can predict whether, so in our case, if I give the AI Builder the data of houses, and so the data set that we had previously about the houses, then it can predict whether the house is safe or not, form processing, object detection, category classification, and entity extraction. And I'll get into the details much more and then talk about it. So let me get on to the interface. So let me reshare my other screen. I see there's a hand raised by Ashish. Do you want to have a question?
Yeah,
Please go ahead.
Darshana.
Hi, Ashish.
My question is it is our choice.
Sorry, I didn't hear you quite well, Ashish. You're breaking off. Can you repeat it again? Ashish, are you there?
Am I audible now?
Yeah. Yeah.
The question is like you have said, it's my choice to like select the number, the size of my training set, validation set, and test set, right?
Yeah.
So, is there any sort of like algorithm or something like that to give me a like kind of estimation of my training size or validation size?
Give you what of the training size and validation size, Ashish?
So, for instance, like I do have like a million of data, right, in my data set, and I want to like split my data. Is there any sort of like algorithm or formula to like give me a kind of idea on my training set, size of the training set, and like validation set?
So for the works is rule of thumb is 80. So you can do training, validation, and testing, right? So training is more for the model to learn. If you have 1 million of rows, then what you can do is, if you have 1 million of rows, then your training data set, even if you do it for just a couple of 100,000, it still works well because that's quite a lot of volume, right? And then you can use the other data set as a validation data set. So validation is more like exploring, and then having new things applied to it, so that when your test data set isn't biased, right? So a rule of thumb is, but if you're doing just training and test, then if you have 10,000 data set, you apply 80-20 rule. So 80% of the data set, so 8,000 rows, you use it for the training, and then the rest 2,000 you use it for the testing. So is that what you wanted to hear? And if not, if you're doing training, validation, and testing, all right, so here we have the AI builder. This you can access through the Power Platform portal. And yeah, one of the really good things about AI builder is as the previous speakers stressed for quite a while, how powerful the Power Flows and the Canvas apps are, right? So how it opens up so many possibilities to be able to do so many things. So that's how AI Builder itself works in the domain as well. So you can have a model built using AI Builder, and then you can readily connect it with the Canvas app, or you can also readily connect it with the Power Automates flow, and then be able to use the data that the model gives and store it in an Excel or wherever you want, however you want, right? So some of the things that AI builds. Hey, sorry, I don't know what happened. I think an issue with the Teams somehow dropped me off. Am I audible now? All right, let me reshare this. Right, so I was talking about how what are some of the really cool things that you can do using AI Builder. So category classification, and then entity extraction, form processing, object detection, predictions are quite a lot of things. So these are pretty simple. So you can categorize text by its meaning, right? And then entity extraction is you can recognize specific information about your business from data. So if you have a long sentence saying my address is this, 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 now you can have just the address part extracted from the sentence. Form processing, so you can have you can save specific part of information from the standard documents. Oh, my screen isn't visible, is it? Let me share it again. Is it now?
Still not visible.
Let me try.
Of you confirm?
Yeah, let me try rejoining again and then try it. Just a minute. Yeah, sorry about that. Right. Is it visible now? Is it now? Okay, so here's some of the things that you can do using AI Builder. So let me get straight on to building a model. So when you click on build, this is what you get on. And then, so what I want to do is I simply want to use this form processing as a use case so that I can have my invoices easily processed. All right, so I'll do the demo. Let me name this model AI demo 2. Right, so some of the so there are going it'll ask me to set up some fields. So what it means by fields is that my use case is that I want to extract some data. I want to extract some things. So I want to extract some data points from the form, and I want to I will have to store it in a field, right? So let's say I want to extract things called invoice number. This number. I want to extract who the invoice is addressed to. I want to extract who the invoice is addressed from, and then I want to extract total amount on the invoice. I want to extract tax. So yeah, this could be. And then the other thing that I'll have is table. And so what table is that oftentimes than not, when you have a bill invoice, you happen to have like a table where price is written and quantity is written, and then things like totals are written. So it gives the space for you to be able to extract that as well. So if I say table 1, and then I can write quantity can be my field. Another thing can be, let me quickly open up the form itself. So based on the form that I have, I want to be able to see some of the extract some of the data columns. So yeah, if this is my form, then yeah. So quantity, description, unit price, right? So these are some of the things that I want from my column. So description, and let's say unit price. All right. Okay, so these are some of the fields and some of the things that I want extracted from the form that I have. So let me quickly go to next. Now this is the part which asks me for all of the documents. So what are some of the forms that I want this to analyze? So I have some files from my local storage. So these are some of the files that I want. All right, so while it uploads, let me show you some more of the things that are there in the AI Builder. So yeah, some things that are readily available is business card reader. So how for as of now, how I'm reading information from the forms. Business card reader helps you read information from the business card. So these are the foundational basis, and these are some of the use cases that are readily available. And another one is category classification. So the business use case for this one, right? And entity extraction. So I think the foundation and business use case is pretty much the same, right? And then there's the invoice processing, which is pretty much what I'm doing right now, but I'm doing it right from the scratch. And then there's the key phrase extraction. So you have quite a lot of information, but you want the summary of it, or you want the exact phrases of it. So that's how key phrase extraction would work.